What up, Raffalitos? Welcome back to my channel. Here we are between Irving Street and L'Ascension Road in Georgetown, Guyana, and I want to show you what's happening here with the walkway between the two roads. They've actually completed all the way to Lamaha Street, and I'm going to take a walk down what's happening on Lamaha Street to show you what's going on here in Georgetown, Guyana, while I discuss with you what is not making the news, what's not being told, you know, on social media, or what is the reality of Guyana. A lot of people are complaining on YouTube in my comment section about how I'm biased against the PPP. I'm going to explain some of that bias right now. So this is what's happening here on the mall between Lamaha Street and this canal. So the government has this bright idea of turning this stretch of reserve into parking lots. Now this is where the old train line was. So there's a reserve. I think I followed this in one of my previous videos. So there's a reserve going all the way back from this point, that is all the way up the coast to the, what do you call the Embankment Road, the road between, say, UG and Rupert Craig Highway. And that used to be the train line, right? There's an old train line. And what they've done right now is they've turned this into a parking lot. So when some of us were thinking maybe it's time to bring back this train that rides along the east coast, let's say from Georgetown to Rossignol or even to Corriverton, this brilliant government has decided to turn the train line, the old train line, into a parking lot. Okay, this is not a bright idea. So for those of you who think I'm biased against the government, I will show you how logically this is not a bright idea. What you're doing is turning this reserve, which was in fact used to be the old train line, into parking lot, and therefore making it a society that depends on vehicles, on cars, and neglecting the future potential growth of the country as far as population and the needs for transportation by incorporating into future plans the development of light rail or mass transit, right? So this should have been reverted back into a train line, whether it be an elevated train or an underground train or a high-speed rail. This reserve used to be where the trains ran, should have been reverted and reserved for mass transit, a way to get into downtown Georgetown from up the east coast via some light rail, some high-speed rail, some elevated train, some levitation train or something. That would have been brilliant. Instead, what we're doing is turning it into a parking lot. All right, that's Peter Rose Street. That's Hermanston Lodge. That's looking back where we came from, right? So from Irving Street, turn onto this reserve. So for those of you who think that I'm biased against the PPP, here's what the PPP has done in the years, 2 years since they've taken over. The first thing they did is they started prosecuting the opposition, putting them in prison, charging them with crimes which they are all made up, right? They sort of pull these people into court, CID department, put them in handcuffs. The CEO of Lands and Survey was arrested and charged with giving out land illegally to black businessmen. The leader of the, the trade union who owned land, his family owned generations of land, generations of his family owned land at number 5 on the West Coast Berbice. Government seized the property belonging to them and started giving it out to their constituents, sharing out this land. And basically a few Guyanese, remember the Karki, or the owner of Car Care company. This is the guy who sold me my first car in Guyana more than, what, 30 years ago when I bought a car here. Well, almost 30 years ago when I bought my first car here. He seized his land, put him in court, charged him with stealing government land, right? So the government here has decided to remove the land from black people because they think that the way to preserve the supremacy of their constituents who are mostly Indian is to take away land from black people in Guyana and make that land available to their constituents who are mostly Indian. And of course what we have right now is a kind of puppet administration, right? So there are people who are given positions so that it looks like a legitimate government, right? You give certain people, because they look a certain way, they're black, and therefore you can say that the government is not racist. But what they're doing is in fact covering for what is essentially stupid and racist policies. So why is it stupid, right? Why is it stupid? Just like it's stupid to turn this reserve into a parking lot instead of making it future light rail development for mass transit. It's stupid to think that you need land to build wealth in the world anymore, because some of the richest companies in the world, Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Google, these are companies that don't own land. They didn't build their wealth from land. In fact, the company that is doing even better than, say, the hotels is a company called Airbnb, right? They don't own any hotels. The company that is doing killing it in mass transit is a company called Lyft and Uber. They don't own any cars, right? So it's actually a backwards mentality that says that you need land to build wealth. Since the richest companies in the world, these companies are now worth over $1 trillion each, like Apple, Google, over $2 trillion in valuation, and they don't own any land. They didn't build their wealth by land. So this government thinks that they can prevent certain people, that is the black population in Guyana, from making progress by withholding access to land. But it's stupid, because you can build a company worth billions of dollars, up to trillions of dollars, without owning any land. That is why it's stupid. So this season I'm actually going to go into my wealth building strategies. This season 12 of Raffle Nation Vlogs. On this channel we talk about politics, economics, food and fun. And I'm actually supposed to be talking mostly about economics this season, and I'm going to explain the interaction between economics and politics, and in this case showing you how to build wealth without land, but how to use whatever little land you have to maximize its value, right? So I have these companies, 21 companies that I'm working on, and what I plan to do now is to show, particularly for young people who follow this channel, the strategy that you need going forward on how to build wealth in this new era of oil and gas. Guyana is now the fastest growing country in the world. We now have a sovereign wealth fund that is worth over $1 billion US. And I actually explain, if you follow my videos, why all this talk about the contract being a bad contract and all this, it's just noise, it's stupid. I explain how the contract works, and I explain why it's a good contract. And when the PPP came into power, they said, you know what, we're going to renegotiate the contract. It's a bad idea, it's stupid. I'm glad that none of it has happened so far. But that's what's happening here, guys. This reserve is being turned into parking lot all the way from Lamaha Street to Camp Street. Now I'm going to stop here so I got off the reserve a little back there because didn't want to run into heavy machinery and so on. But it continues. You can see it's going all the way to Camp Street. They're turning it into a parking lot, and I'm going to bring you more about this as it develops, as it gets completed. If you want to see more content like this, click like and subscribe. In the comments below, tell me whether you understand what's happening, because I do. I live here. There are a lot of people who don't live here who do not understand. And if you have questions, leave them in the comments so I can explain to you what's really happening here in Georgetown, Guyana. Share this video with friends and family. Let people know what's happening in Guyana. Later!